This week, the book I wanted to highlight is Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. It's one of my favorite books by one of my favorite authors. I hadn't read it in a while, and when I was looking over it again, I realized there's a lot. It's pretty brutal. And the season I'm in this life is full of children and children's movies, and so it's very dark. I would not watch this movie with my children in the room. But the thing that's beautiful about it is, if you know anything about my story, the things we went through were not G-rated things. We went through, I had a cousin who died he was murdered by his stepfather, beaten to death. And a lot of the things that made me question God sort of come up in this book. It's a story of two princesses, and one is beautiful and one is ugly. And the ugly one is very smart. She's also treated very badly. She's treated with brutality, and she sees brutality in her father, who's a king. And she writes this story as an accusation against the gods. This is a myth that C.S. Lewis retells, so the way he writes about it is different from the original story, but that's why it's got different names for different gods. It's a metaphor for a lot of the struggles that we go through in our lives. And I think that's the beautiful thing about C.S. Lewis. He was an expert in literature and mythology, and he explains how a lot of the things throughout history point us to the truths of God in whatever form we see it, whether we're talking about, Lord of the Rings having wizards and giants and trolls and, all these different things, or whether we're talking about the Narnia Chronicles where there's the White Witch and then Aslan as a lion and representing Jesus. So he kind of points out the fact that everything, when we think through it as metaphor and as poetry, everything can point to God and teach us a truth about God. So I think it's cool that he rewrote this myth. But in the end, after she tells this long, beautiful story, she actually has a theophany, which means she has this encounter with God. And this happens a lot in the scriptures, where somebody has a question for God and then God shows up and there's a realization that he is so far beyond what we can understand, and also an understanding of just terror that should come to the presence of the creation before their creator, questioning him in the way that sometimes we do. So we see this in the book, and I'm actually going to read the last part of this for anybody who is not going to read the book. And if you are, then maybe you want to skip this, but if you aren't, this is for you, because I think this is the most important part. So here she is accusing the gods and summing up everything that she's written. Here's the ugly queen who has been mistreated her whole life and seen so much tragedy, accusing the gods at the end of the story and summing up everything she's been accusing them of. It says, "Those we love best, whoever's most worth loving, those are the very ones you'll pick out. Oh, I can see it happening age after age and growing worse and worse. The more you reveal your beauty, the son turning his back on the mother, and the bride on her groom, stolen away by this everlasting calling of the gods, taken where we can't follow. It would be far better for us if you were foul and ravening. We'd rather you drink their blood than stole their hearts. We'd rather they were ours and dead than yours and made immortal. But to steal her love from me," she's talking about her beautiful sister that died young, "to make her see things I couldn't see. Oh, and you'll say, you've been whispering it to me for these 40 years, that I had signs enough that her palace was real. I could have known the truth if I wanted. But how could I want to know it? Tell me that. The girl was mine. What right had you to steal her away into your dreadful heights? You'll say I was jealous. Jealous of Psyche?" That's her sister's name. "Not while she was mine. If you'd gone the other way to work, if it was my eyes you had opened, you'd soon have seen How I would have shown her and told her and taught her and led her up to my level. But to hear a chit of a girl who had, or ought to have had, no thought in her head that I'd not put there, setting up for a seer and a prophet, and next thing to a goddess, how could anyone endure it? That's why I say it makes no difference whether you're fair or foul. That there should be gods at all, there's our misery and bitter wrong. There's no room for you and us in the same world. You're a tree in whose shadow we can't thrive. We want to be our own. I was my own and Psyche was mine, and no one else had any right to her. Oh, you'll say you took her away into bliss and joy, such as I could never have given her, and I ought to have been glad of it for her sake. Why? What should I care for some horrible new happiness which I hadn't given her and which separated her from me? Do you think I wanted her to be happy that way? It would have been better if I'd seen the brute tear her to pieces before my eyes. You stole her to make her happy, did you? Why, every wheedling, smiling, catfoot rogue who lures away another man's wife or slave or dog might say the same thing. Dog, now, that's very much to the purpose. I'll thank you to let me feed my own. It needed no tidbits from your table. Did you ever remember whose the girl was? She was mine. Mine. Do you not know what the word means? Mine. You're thieves, seducers. That's my wrong. I'll not complain, not now, that you're blood drinkers and man-eaters. I'm past that. Enough, said the judge. And I'm going to skip to this other page, and this is her guide, which is a man who died while she was young that was like a teacher to her. And he said, "We must go to your true judges now. I am to bring you there." My judges? Why, yes, child. The gods have been accused by you. Now it's their turn. I cannot hope for mercy. Infinite hopes and fears may both be yours. Be sure of that. Whatever else you get, you will not get justice. He said, "Are the gods not just?" "Oh, no, child. What would become of us if they were? But come and see." We had now traveled round 2 or 3 walls, and the third remained. "Child," said the fox, that was her teacher, "have you understood?" "But are these pictures true?" I asked, that I had seen. "All here is true." "But how could did she really do such things and go to such places?" "One of the truest things I used to say to you, do you remember? We are all limbs and parts of one whole, hence of each other. Men and gods flow in and out and mingle. Then there is a real Ungit." Ungit is the terrible god that they worship. That's the name for the one that they talk about. He says, "All, even Psyche, her sister, are born into the house of Ungit, and all must get free from her, or say that Ungit and each must bear Ungit's son and die in childbed or change. And now Psyche must go down into the Deadlands to get beauty in a casket from the queen of the Deadlands, from Death herself, and bring it back to give it to Ungit, so Ungit will become more beautiful. But this is the law for her journey. If for any fear or favor or love or pity she speaks to anyone on the way, she will never come back to the sunlit lands again. She must keep straight on in silence till she stands before the throne of the Queen of Shadows. All is at stake. Now watch." He need not tell me that. We both watched. Psyche went on and on, deeper into the earth, colder, deeper, darker. But at last there came a chilly light on one side of her way, and there, I think, the great tunnel, or gallery whence she journeyed, opened out. For there in the cold light stood a great crowd of rabble. Their speech and clothes showed me at once that they were people of Glome. That's the kingdom where they reigned. I saw the faces of some I knew. "Istra, princess, Ungit," they called out, stretching their hands towards her. "Stay with us, be our goddess, rule us, speak oracles to us, receive our sacrifices, be our goddess." Psyche walked on and never looked at them. "Whoever the enemy is," said I, "he's not very clever if he thinks she would falter after that." "Wait," said the fox. Psyche, her eyes fixed straight ahead, went further on and further down again. On the left side of her road there came a light. One figure rose up in it. I was startled at this one and looked to my side. The fox was with me still. But he who rose up in the cold light to meet Psyche by the wayside was also the fox, our teacher and grandfather, but older, grayer, paler than the fox who was with me now. "Oh, Psyche, Psyche," said the fox in the picture. Say in that other world, it was no painted thing. "What folly is this? What are you doing wandering through a tunnel beneath the earth? What? You think this is the way to the Deadlands? You think the gods have sent you here?" All lies of priests and poets, child. It's only a cave or a disused mine. There are no dead lands such as you dream of, and no such gods. Has all my teaching taught you nothing more than this? The God within you is the God you should obey. Reason, calmness, self-discipline. Fie, child. Do you want to be a barbarian all your days? I would have given you a clear, Greek, full-grown soul, but there's still time. Come to me, and I will lead you out of all this darkness, back to the grass plot behind the pear trees, where all is clear, hard, limited, and simple. But Psyche walked on and never looked at him. And presently she came to a third place where there was a little light on the left of the dark road. Amid that light, something like a woman rose up. Its face was unknown to me. When I looked at it, I felt pity that nearly killed my heart. It was not weeping, but you could see from its eyes that it had already wept them dry. Despair, humiliation, entreaty, endless reproach, all these were in it. And now I trembled for Psyche. I knew the thing was there only to entrap her and turn her from the path. But did she know it? And if she did, could she, so loving and so full of pity, pass it by? It was too hard a test. Her eyes looked straight forward, but of course she had seen it out of the corner of her eye. A quiver ran through her. Her lip twitched, threatened with sobbing. She sat, her teeth in the lip to keep it straight. Oh, great gods, defend her, I said to myself. Hurry, hurry her past. The woman held her hands out to Psyche, and I saw that her left arm dripped with blood. Then came her voice, and what a voice it was, so deep yet so womanlike, so full of passion it would have moved you, even if it spoke happy or careless things. But now who could resist it? It would have broken a heart of iron. Oh, Psyche, it wailed. Oh, my own child, my only love, come back, back to the old world where we were happy together. Come back to Maya. This is the ugly sister talking to her. That's her name. Psyche bit her lip till the blood came and wept bitterly. I thought she felt more grief than that wailing Arul. But that Arul had only to suffer. Psyche had to keep on her way as well. She kept on, went on out of sight, journeying always further into death. That was the last of the pictures. The fox and I were alone again. Did we really do these things to her? I asked. Yes, all here is true. And we said we loved her, and we did. She had no more dangerous enemies than us. And in that far distant day when the gods became wholly beautiful, or we at last are shown how beautiful they always were, this will happen more and more. For mortals, as you said, will become more and more jealous, and mother and wife and child and friend will all be in league to keep a soul from being united with the divine nature. And Psyche, in that old terrible time when I thought her cruel, she suffered more than I, perhaps. She bore much more for you then. You have borne something for her since. And will the gods one day grow thus beautiful, grandfather? They say, but even I, who am dead, do not yet understand more than a few broken words of their language. Only this I know. This age of ours will one day be the distant past, and the divine nature can change the past. Nothing is yet in its true form. That was a long passage. This is a pretty long book. And I actually spoiled the ending probably, but it is very deep, and C.S. Lewis's books are pretty deep most of the time. But it is this idea of having an eternal perspective in the midst of all of the temporary suffering that we go through, and being faced with eternity, what that looks like. I loved this book for so many reasons, but mostly because it points out that sometimes the answer to the questions we have about all the suffering is the theophany, the actual experience with God that makes you realize that there is eternity past the time of suffering that we're in, and God's ways as creator are so far above what we can understand, and that's sometimes the answer. So this is Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis.